Okay, today is going to be a very fun interview with Mr. Tran in the fact that sometimes we do clinical dentistry, implants, root canals, sometimes we're talking about practice management, but you are absolutely the leading world authority on actual office design. And you put a continuing education course on Dental Town about office design that's truly amazing. You've been accounting for a decade with thousands of posts. So are you? So how are you going to approach this? There, are you talking to the dentist who is going to build an office from scratch? A dentist that how do you want to how do you want to approach your expertise today?
Well, certainly I would certainly like to do brand new, building from scratch. But that is a pretty small percentage of practitioners that have that particular need. There's more, with the rough economy. Certainly, there's more renovations than brand new construction. So if I'm to approach a client, first of all, I have to find out what their particular needs is, whether this is simply freshen up the place with a new coat of paint, new carpet, new materials, and things like that, just to give it a little bit of new life. Then we can do that. Or if they want to, if they have spatial problems that they're just can't stand it anymore, and they want change, but minimize the disruption to the practice and a large investment of money, we can also help to take care of that too. But yeah, I'm certainly always looking for opportunity to do everything from the ground up, and and do the things that really create a dream practice that the practitioner had been working to have 10, 15 years in the making. So whatever their need is, that's where we start.
Well, my main thought on this is basically that dentists emotionally think debt is bad, but debt for a land and building and dental practice is investment. Debt in a land and building and home is a bad deal. And you're going to spend, there's 160 hours in a week. You're going to spend a third of your life, of your waking hours in a dental office. And you routinely see dentists renting 1,000 square foot crappy old office. And then they live in a $3,000 or $4,000 very nice home where they own the land and building. And it kind of reminds me when I drive to some of the poorest areas around the world where their car is worth 3 times more than their house. And it's like dentists really need to understand that to be happy and healthy and vibrant and growing, you should own the land and building, and your dental office should be bigger than your house. And if your house is twice as big as your dental office, I just can't agree with that at all.
Well, Howard, I think it's an interesting perspective. I mean, outside of your professional life, you have your personal need and compromises too. I assume that most of us have family, and you work so that you can provide a comfortable place for your family to reside in. So where you work, I mean, if you can afford to have a sprawling estate for your family, I think that's great. But when you invest into real estate and building for your practice, it's not an expense because, again, you say that you spent a third of your life, more than a third of your waking life, working and at your office. So you should invest in it to provide you the most comfortable, the most effective, the most enduring type of facility that you come to every day. Where your staff and people depend on you to have, so that they come for treatment and things like that. So I mean, if your house is 3 times as big as your practice, more power to you. But when you look at your having your practice, it should be approached as an investment for the long haul. You don't build a practice so that you can move every 5 or 10 years. You build it so that you can stay there and grow and expand as you need it. So it should, the dentist should invest more time in research into the locations and the facility they need. I think that's an area that a lot of dentists do not invest into looking at what they ultimately need and want, because every time you move, it's going to affect your practice.
I would say that in my 27 years of listening to other dentists, the number one complaint with every dentist I've ever met with their new office is 5 years later, they say they wish they would have had another operatory or two. They always go so small. I don't think I can count one dentist said, man, I made my dental office too big. I have too many ops. I wish to heck I wouldn't have gone so big. Is that the feedback you're hearing?
You know, it's funny. We designed an office for Dr. Hansing in Slovenia. They has 12 operatories, and he said, I wish I have more. You know, I guess if you built too many and the practice didn't grow, you know, as you needed, or the economy tanked, then you say, gosh, I think I built too many. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a gamble. But if you plan to grow and stay there and, you know, and expand, your part of your building plan should give you the opportunity or the option to also expand as you need. Yes, you can build, but yeah, I've heard of that same complaint. But if you don't plan it right, then you can't exercise the option of being able to expand your facility, physically expand your facility.
I think it's funny how, the average overhead of a dental office is 65%. So that means the dentist is getting 35%. Labor in rural is closer to 20, in urban closer to 25 to 28. So labor is another 20 to 28. So we're looking at about 55% labor. And in every dental office I've ever been in, all the expensive people, the dentist and the staff, everybody's waiting for a room. Everybody's waiting. Well, as soon as we get the lady out of room 4, then we can flip that room. And don't worry, doc, just stand there doing nothing. And we should have your next patient ready in 15, 20 minutes. I'm thinking, gosh, the facility cost, that's under 5%. Why is 55% labor standing around for a 5% facility cost? The doctors that go operatory long and can always walk out of one room and walk into another fully loaded room, they're always far busier. And secondly, the front office, every day someone's got a toothache, an emergency, whatever, and they can't find a chair to put this person in. And the dental offices that I see that have an emergency room, so the front office doesn't have to be coordinating with all the assistants. The dentist just say, well, just come down and, you know, in our office, room 4 is never scheduled. It's an emergency room. So I can have 4 receptions at the front desk being on the phone to say, well, come on down right now, and then just put him in room 4. And we may go in there and just look at it and give them antibiotics and pain pills to be out of there in 2 minutes. Or that person might land right when someone else doesn't show up. So the entropy, random chaos of an emergency patient exactly neutralizes the crazy realities of life that someone misses their appointment. So that's a balance. And then sometimes we just work harder. And well, tell me, this is your expertise, not mine. Just tell our viewers, what should they be thinking about for remodel a new office? What have you picked up? What are your low-hanging fruit takeaways on office design? I told you mine: bigger than you think, always have an emergency room, be true to your cost. You know, your operatories aren't your cost, people are your cost, yourself and your staff. What takeaways would you like to give them to think about?
Well, I think it's that first of all, when you design a facility, you have to do, I like to point out the aspect that you have to first create a program of what it is that you need. Okay, what do you need now? Project how you're going to grow and what you need down the road, and how you can accomplish that growth. You hear discussion about, if you need, you're going to have a 7 operatory practice, just build it out and only furnish 2 or 3. And as you grow, you can commission those empty treatment room into action when you need it. But then you're basically building a larger facility that you don't need until you pay for all of the expenses to have that. I think it had to start with the programmer, what is it you want, what is your need, and then you plan and design around that need. Okay, it's all have to do with your business program and the design program for your facility, so that you can meet your facility need as you grow and as you expand. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. What are you thinking of other things besides size and the future growth and all that? What about like architecture, like operatories? I've been in dental operatories that are 15 foot by 15. I've been in others that are small. I always have the same thought that if you're going to spend a gazillion hours in here doing a root canal, why are we having to turn sideways to get between the door and the cabinet? And I seen some offices say, well, the assistant only needs a 3 foot wide door because if someone's in a wheelchair, some of these, I call that theory thinking Japanese, meaning that in Tokyo, where land's $1 million a square meter, your facility cost is so high that you literally have to learn how to build a dental office in a closet. But in the United States and Canada and Australia and these big open countries, is some of that just overkill, or where do you weigh in on that?
Howard, I think it's more of a cultural thing. In the United States, we like everything big. Everything big, okay? The bigger, the things that we have, or the bigger the toys that we have, the more that our friends and associates and family perceive of our success. If first of all, when you build your practice, you're building it for you and your staff. So I think part of the shortcoming that I find is that the communication between the team. I'm talking about the team that include the dentist and his staff, the assistants, and the whole staff. They don't bring them all together and brainstorm about what is that you like to have, or what do you think that we need to improve so that our next facility would have less of the headaches that we deal with now. It's kind of humorous that a dentist want to design a new facility because they're expanding, or they need that additional production capacity, but they will take the same stuff that they've been griping about for the last 15 years and reintroduce it into their new facility. They don't look at the new facility as an opportunity to shed all this crap that they've been complaining and griping about. So communicating with their team can actually add a lot of value to the things that they improve. They are the leader, but they don't necessarily have to be the only decision maker. The more that you can get out of your team, the more contributions you can get from the team, the more that they feel that they have a little bit of ownership, that they feel that they have some value in your organization and have the freedom to give and take and add to the value of your organization as they grow. Because after all, you're not the only one that's spending a third of your life there. They're also spending a third of their life there with you.
And that is my management style. I've always said, I lead from behind, and there's nothing that I do more than delegate out. I every time someone asks me a question, I always think, well, how would you ask that question if you own 10 McDonald's and you just asked that to Ray Kroc? He's 6 feet underground. Why are you asking this question at Walmart when Sam Walton's 6 feet underground? And the same dentist that always complains that he wears too many hats is the same one that doesn't push decisions out. And you're right, it gives the staff ownership, it's creativity, it's brainstorming. Go through the long laundry list of things that you've seen over the last decades doing this, of what facility issues were bad in the first office and they're reintroduced, and go through those.
Here's I think everybody have their style of how they like things, what makes them happy. Everybody have a different personal need and perception of the what they want for their facility, what's the best facility. So whether you like or you can operate in an outdoor that are only 6 feet wide by 8 feet deep, or 8 feet wide and 11 feet deep, or 12 by 15. That is more of a personal decision and choice. If you can afford a little extra elbow room, do so. Okay. I think when you look at the facility, a lot of things that I like to fine tune is this. When we talk about ergonomics, when we talk about efficiency, effectiveness, and stuff like that, I look at a dentist's office is very much like any other factory, because you talk about production. Okay, people come in, or a patient come in, you assess their condition, you lay out the treatment plan, and you take them through the process and you get them out the front door, just like a factory making widgets. So I believe that the more compacted design, the better it is. A lot of the complaint that you hear is it's noise. That's the biggest gripe.
Noise from what?
Oh, noise from just the buzz in the facility. People talking, or a sound from traffic sound, equipment sound, and things like that. When I'm talking, there is technologies and solution to everything that goes into the building. If there is a sound problem, identify it at the beginning of the planning process so that you can implement the proper designs and wall assemblies and doors and so on to isolate the situation. You don't do it afterward. What I find a lot of time is that the jockeying of who comes first to the to the table to start the design process. The approach is how cheap can I get away with if I want to do this or that, rather than what is the best solution, what is the best technology, what is the best approach. So we're not trying to design a facility that meet all the need, but we're trying to design a facility based on a dollar or a budget that a doctor may or may have not established. So if you're looking from cheap and fast, I think you're shortchanging yourself. So when you design, you have to look at not just the dental part, you look at architectural, because everything works together as a unit. You can't have one better than the other and go, well, why do I have problems?
Right. And one thing I think is hilarious about sound is I think dentists always forget that we have such strong fundamentals in basic science of math, physics, chemistry, and biology. I mean, I walk into restaurants where they designed tile floors, hard walls, straight ceilings. They don't realize that, Dr. Bose, he was, Bose speakers, that guy was a sound physicist from MIT, and you can't even hear yourself think because all the noise bouncing around.
Right.
And there's no place to absorb that sound. Different angles, soft carpets, softer walls. And talk about sound for a minute, because if that's a big problem, what do you like to avoid to have sound bouncing everywhere? Do you like a softer linoleum as opposed to a tile floor, or?
I think you have to look at the region of the country. Okay, so what is the facility going to be exposed to? If, for instance, I think it's great that like Dental Town, you have a lot of practitioners that have done things that you can bounce ideas off and stuff like that. But when a person only have done limited exposure to the construction or the design, their input is valued, but it may not appropriately apply to their friend's facility. If their facility is in Texas and their friends is in Alaska, building a facility that you've done in Texas is going to be a nightmare for the people in Alaska. Okay, so everything has to be taken and appropriately applied based on the locations of where they're at. For instance, a debate is it an investment or expense to have a vestibule? Okay,
Have a what?
a vestibule.
A
All right?
vestibule?
Yes.
What is a vestibule?
A vestibule is that air brake or that chamber. When you come into a facility, you go to one side of the door, and then you enter the vestibule.
Okay.
Okay. That vestibule may take up less than 50 square feet. All right, but if you ever sit in a waiting room that when the door opens exposed to the outdoor, whether it's hot or cold, all right. So in Arizona, you open the door, it may be hot and it's okay. But once you open the door, the bees and the insect may fly in, and then you have a disaster in your waiting room. Okay, that vestibule actually only allows so much of the conditioned air, heat or cold, to escape. So it's that every time you open the door without a vestibule, all your money rush out. Okay, and then the temperature in that room will have to be again bring up to a certain comfort level. So that is an element that a lot of debate about whether you should have or shouldn't have. I personally think you should have. When you touch mud into or snow into the building, it doesn't stop at the door. It goes all the way in. That's the point where you get allowed to kick off and stuff like that. That's where it contains the discomfort in the adjacent room, the waiting area. When it comes to sound, you have a lot of hard wall, hard floor. There's a lot of different treatment that you can use. You can use soundboards on your wall. You can use just a lot of different. Let's say acoustic ceiling. You got drop ceiling. It comes in different grades, so maybe a little extra money into a higher absorbency type of panel that it can absorb some of the sound. Maybe artwork, maybe a tapestry, things that you can do to at least absorb some of that sound so it doesn't bounce all over the place and you just drive you nuts. So the planning of what it is that you're trying to achieve should be done at the front. So it's part of the design. It's part of the the process of trying to achieve things rather than you take the more proactive approach.
For me, when I opened up, I was renting a space and there was only windows at the front. There was no windows on three walls. And for me, the neatest luxury I still appreciate, 25 years later, was putting a big window in each operatory. I felt like when I walked into the dental office and it was dark out, and I left the dental office dark out, I feel like I just sacrificed a day. And when I'm in there doing root canals and fillings and crowns all day, looking out that bright window and seeing the weather and the rain and all the different things, I feel like I'm outside in a park. And I also think it's better taking a shade of a tooth when you have natural sunlight coming into the window. Without a window, do you recommend full UV light bulbs for cosmetic dentistry, or do you think that's overkill?
Anything that you can do, any technology that you can do to give you the natural lighting, close to the natural lighting as possible, is a plus. If you don't have a window and you need to have a window, I mean, a lot of practices now are going to a retail strip, so the only window is at the front. Okay, it's me. I need daylight. Okay. I started to grow hair and fangs if I don't have daylight. But there is technology that you can use. There's ways that you can design to at least simulate that, so you can have not necessarily a window, but a artificial window per se. Okay, have you been in a place where they create a fake window with the blinds and everything, and it's lit up, and you have a scene and stuff like that. Those are things that if you find the creative people that implement some of that element into your facility, that would offset some of that cave-like feel. Yes, a retail strip will give you a lot of eyeballs to look at because everybody's going there. So you need traffic that come to that walk in. But the sacrifice is having natural light, natural window. You can use clear story to bring some of the light from the front deep into the building. You can use skylights if that is negotiated into your lease, if you're in a shopping facility. So you can bring natural light into, and of course, the artificial lighting should be designed so that it gives you as much light as you need or as much light as you want. because I don't think the lack of light make the place cozy. It just make the place look really, really dingy. Now, I have personally, when I see a dental facility that I can visit, I go and check out and see things. So I've been to a few clinics where you go like, oh my God, it feels like a cave because it's so dark. And it's not just that bad for how you practice, but it's just bad for your psyche as well. When you leave, like you say, it depends on where you live. When you go to the office, it's dark. It's dark out, and you leave the office when it's dark out. Eventually, you feel like you live in the dark. If you can bring natural light in, there is ways to do that, and so express that to your designer or your architects or whoever designed your facility. That way, they can implement that into the design and plan for it.
Han, something that's always out in the media, something that's always on, I always ask my patients, why did you leave your last dentist? What did you like the most about any dentist you've gone to? What have you liked the least about any dentist you've gone to? What are you expecting to have done? Before I jump into a health history, I'm trying to diagnose their mind. I cannot tell you how many times in the last 27 years someone said the place was dirty. I mean, when I got out of school, it was all over the news. Kimberly Burkalis said she caught AIDS from a dentist, David Acker, in Florida. Just this year, a dentist, an oral surgeon in Oklahoma. All of his patients had to be tested for diseases, etc. But how can you? Do you have any thoughts about how to make an office look more clean and sterile? Because obviously, I've had ladies say to me, if his instruments look like the dust on his baseboard or the dust on that ceiling fan, I'm not letting him stick anything in my mouth. And
you don't blame him, do you, Howard?
No.
I mean, when I go to a restaurant, I pay attention to is the condiment on the table has it been wiped off? Is there a 2 or 3 day cake on dry on cake ketchup on the ketchup bottle? I look at those things so I can assess the how they're going to handle my food. Okay, naturally as a consumer, you want the best for your the best for your money, and you want to have the best experience. Those consumer doesn't excuse the dentist from having a unkept place. When you have a facility, you have to invest the time in those little detail. Okay, like if you walk into a facility and you go, oh, there is a week or 2 weeks worth of dust and or fuss that sits in the corner. That means that the dentist doesn't care enough to have house cleaning. All right. Now, when it comes to design, your team should include the people, perhaps include the people that actually clean your place. So that way they can actually give you some input like, okay, carpet's a little hard to clean. We find this one will work best, or this one doesn't. So their feedback can also take into consideration of the final the product that's selected for the facility. So, again, it's communication, it's planning. But the perception of what your facility look like, it's very important to the consumer, your patient. Okay, when we design facility, the question, the things we have to be aware is, what don't our client do? All right, that means that after you put in all the nice carpet, the nice wall covering, and all that stuff, do they actually clean, and how often do they clean? So that product there that is selected have to endure for that 5, 10, or 20 years of use and or neglect. But as a business owner, you have to pay attention and give the facility the care they need. So that way, when the people walk into the facility, they walk into at least a comfortable and clean place. The chair, for instance, all right, the seat on there. I don't like to share my seat with the last 100 people that have been there, that wipe their hands and stuff like that, and the chair have not been cleaned. I myself resist from shaking people's hand in public because when they say, well, are you a germophobic? No. If you want to know how filthy people are and their behavior and their habits, go into a public bathroom and go into the corner stall and hang out there for a few minutes and count the number of times that doors open and close and how many times the sink actually get activated. And you go, oh my God, there's like 7 of the 10 people out there didn't wash their hand after they do their business. Your facility, part of the cleanliness and the longevity of the finishes and the look of and the aesthetic of your facility are attributed to cleaning, regular cleaning and maintenance.
I want to say something else. You know, having lectured to dentists in 50 countries, it is very apparent that everything man has built in the last 5,000 years out of rock and cement is still standing. I mean, you know, whenever you see any structure or building in Warsaw or Paris or anywhere, it's made out of rock. And then you come out to areas like Arizona where everything's put together with boards and chicken wire and, you know, blow stuff. If you built a really nice dental office with ceramic floor, it'd probably be there 1,000 years later. But if you build it out of a plywood floor and threw some carpet over there, it'd have to be replaced regularly. To me, this is not my expertise, this is your expertise, but to me, it looks like if you build a dental office once and right, you'd still have a nice building 50 years later without blinking. And again, if you go short-term cheap, save on some building materials, you don't have a long-term investment. Are there, will you talk about that?
Yes, that's a good point, Howard. I think it start with the mindset of the client. Okay, if you go out and you say, I want to build a building, and this is all I want to spend on it. Okay, you establish a budget. But if you didn't ask that question, okay, if I do this, okay, what would be the ideal material for? We're talking about a brand new building from the ground up. Okay, so what is the ideal material to use so that my building, I don't have to worry about vandalism. I don't have to worry about constant maintenance. What would last me for another 30, 40, 50, 100 years? Naturally, it will be brick and stone. Okay, it's an investment. If they're looking at the quick, cheap, and what can I get away with, then they build. Then the building. Yes, you can have this. You can have that, but it's not going to have the longevity and the durability of the material we're talking about, brick and stone. Okay, naturally, the reason why brick and stone was used is because people back then don't build and say, I don't like it, I tear it down in 5 years. It started with, what is it that you want and what do you want out of that investment? Do you want it to endure so that it lasts for almost forever? Or you want it just so that it's there and get done and then we move on when it falls apart? It's an attitude.
I always say if the Americans would have built the pyramids, nobody would know about it today because they would have built it out of the cheapest supplies and it would have fallen down and blown away within 100 years.
Well, in our mind, I think we built the greatest thing, okay? Until you take that and you compare it to others. The approach when you look at how the Japanese built anything, they come to the table with a totally different end result and what they want versus what we want. As an American, we go, just do it. If it breaks, we'll fix it. For them, they say, fix it, build it, then we don't have to fix it again.
Okay. Well, speaking of that note, why do dentists lay all those lines to the operator? I mean, water and suction and nitrous and all those lines. It looks like spaghetti. And then pour concrete over it. And then 5 years later, the land starts settling and they got broken lines and they're in there with, I've seen them 100 times, with big old concrete cutting saws. And I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, we're cutting down, trying to find the line. We got a leak in the floor. It's like, well, who thought didn't anyone think this out that we probably shouldn't bury everything in cement?
Yes. Actually, I there's an old technology where you go into commercial buildings, you walk across the floor and you can hear that little hollowness in the floor system. It's because they have channels or chase, mechanical chase or electrical chase for all this infrastructure underneath to support the material. You have been in a what they call a computer room where the floor is elevated and you have the air and all that stuff. Well, that is a technology that allowed you to have everything underneath the walking surface, and you can move everything anytime you want. Okay, when we look at dental facility and the way it's designed, it's just short of building a house. Okay,
Sure.
most of the practitioners, that's the things they compare to. They want to bring their home to their office because they spend a lot of time there, but they're not willing to explore other ways to do things. And if you and the part of the challenge also is that when you start to look at more innovative process and design elements, it's hard to find the labor force that have the same innovation or the same mind of thinking and experience to execute that. Okay. Now, I like new things. I like always new systems and stuff. And I worked on a project one time where the contractor that won the bid, when it comes to install that particular piece, he goes, "We've never done it before and we can't do it, but this is what we can do." So instead of having a very high-tech extruded aluminum trim treatment, we have the same old drywall. So it depends on the client, what they're comfortable with, what they're willing to spend, how long they're going to be there, and the labor force you have available, and at the same time also the experience level of their designer.
Do you think it's overkill to have the dental office 2 feet off the ground with a crawl space underneath to service all that area, or do you think that's overkill?
Actually, I don't think it's an overkill, Howard. Okay, if you look at when you travel to the European countries, all right, commercial building particularly, they have what they call a raised floor, and that raised floor is very similar to your computer room, and all of their HVAC is underneath the floor. The grill, the vent for to provide the heat and cold is at the floor. If you happen to have that office or that space where you work and you need that area to be closer, you can actually move that duct. Okay, so you have control of that. One is that it allowed the building to be smaller. It allowed the structure, the roof structure, to be designed differently, so it doesn't have to carry the large equipment. It can be serviced a lot better. So it's not. I don't think it's an overkill. I think it's a different technology that the United States is not ready for. But I think it's something that's really worth exploring and worth looking at, because you can move all of this. Let's say you have all your vacuum and your nitrous and all that stuff underneath the raised floor. Well, you never have to cut the concrete slab. All right, the building don't settle. First of all, buildings shouldn't settle. The slab shouldn't settle. Okay, if it's done right. But if you want to reconfigure your office, you can do that without having to do a lot of demolition.
I'm most impressed on these new cruise ships that you go on, and you see the maintenance people, and they can just walk up to any wall and in like 3 seconds remove a panel, and right
Yes.
there's the plumbing, the electrical. I mean, it's just totally. It was just designed like the Japanese or Germans would have done it. I mean, it seems like when I go to dental companies in Japan or Germany, they have like 20 guys in white coats that are PhDs designing the product, and they don't have a marketing department. And then it seems like you come to American companies and they have like a boiler room of 30 people cold calling, selling, and they don't even have a PhD and don't even understand their own product. You know what I mean? So it is a mindset. America's always, just make the sell, slap it up, fast. But, you spent 8 years in college to become a dentist. You're going to practice for 40 years. Build a nice quality Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, and build it once, build it right. Also, I think a lot of psychological place. Staff sometimes need they need a place to go and decompress. They shouldn't have to be
Yeah.
eating a
Yeah.
sandwich, standing in a hallway. They need to unwind. I mean, you just got done with a very stressful patient who was upset for whatever reason, or child or whatever. Sometimes it's just nice to go and lay down. A couch. I mean, gosh, there's always somebody in a dental office who might have a no-show or a cancellation, who's not feeling well, whatever, just wants to lay down. One of my nicest amenities we put is actually just a picnic table outside under a huge tree. And everybody loves to go out there and eat lunch all through the cool winter months in Phoenix, Arizona. So what other topping points? We're 2/3 done. We're 40 minutes into 60. I only got you 20 minutes less of your talking points. What else do you want to cover in these remaining 20 minutes?
When we talk about dentist office, it doesn't always pertain to the inside of the building. Okay, a lot of the issues and discussion we talk about, it's if you build a building, okay, for whatever purpose, we're talking about dentist office. It's not specifically just for dentists. You have people that come in to service you. Okay, let's say you buy a piece of land, and I find this to be a little bit disheartening, is that it's designed from the inside out. You have people that sell furniture or equipment that have absolutely no knowledge of buildings, and they really care about how the building associated on your site and stuff like that. They design the building. Now, for instance, we were given a project. We were asked to do a project a few years back, and it was designed by a supply company, and it was brought to us, and we go, okay, have their zoning issue have been resolved? We go, why? Well, because the building sits right on an easement. Okay, it sits over the property line. It can't work. You can't build your building on your neighbor's property. All right. So zoning is important. It tells you what you can do and can't do. The question that I always ask is, why can't we have this gigantic sign? Well, because it's not just because you can't. Because there's a set of rules that everybody has to follow. It's called the zoning ordinance. You don't have to be an expert in it, but the people who design for you should at least read it. They should at least check it. Okay, if a patient come into your office the first time and your assistant just grab the patient's hand and take him to the chair and start the treatment, that would be frightening. You want to know at least a little bit of history of what it is that you're dealing with. Well, the building is basically the same. So before you design, you got to check out what you can do, what is the condition you have to live with, and who is going to make your life miserable if you don't. The zoning should be an issue that they should resolve.
I want you to also talk about the fact that so many dentists, they're enticed by a supply company saying, oh, we'll design your office for free. And I always say, dude, you're in America. There's nothing for free in America. And then they seem to design it only based on everything they can sell you, including a gazillion pre-made fabricated cabinets, and your office layout is probably more determined on how many pre-made cabinets they can sell you versus what would be the ideal layout. And I would ask you, what do you think of suppliers designing your own dental office? And is it great to go with pre-made cabinets, or do you think it's often better to have them custom built from scratch in the remodel or facility?
This is where I get in trouble, okay? But let's go for it. First of all, would you feel comfortable that your assistant do the extraction? Of course not. Okay. The people that if the supplier's main focus is to provide you with equipment, then let's stick with the core business equipment. If you're going to design a facility, then let's design it right from the start. There's nothing worse than handing somebody the baton that have been greased. Okay, more likely they're going to drop it. It's going to be a problem. If you're going to design, make sure that it's designed to code, that the zoning issue is taken care of. Building code is addressed. ADA requirement is addressed. So that way, when you say, I'm going to design a facility for you, you're actually designing it. You're not just laying out equipment plan. Okay, so it becomes a value for the rest of the team that come behind. You don't want to have somebody else come behind you to pick up your stuff and fix the things you do. That's what happens when you hand a set of drawings that are done for the purpose of laying out equipment. Not that there's not unique individuals that are qualified to do those things within those organizations, but that's not their core business. If you look at any document that comes from a supplier, there is a disclaimer on the bottom that say zoning issue, building issues, and all that stuff has not been verified. Well, why not? If you design it, why not? Okay, you're right. We're in America. There is nothing for free. It's somewhere in there. You're paying for it. Okay, you're the guy that's buying equipment. There's a margin that's big enough that they can throw a couple $1,000s at you. So as far as cabinet is concerned, well, if you're in the lease space for 5 years and saving up so that you can build your permanent office down the road, why invest into something that you can't take with you? Okay, so I mean, it all depends on the budget you have and what you can. You can build some really, really nice custom cabinets, and that will rival any pre-manufactured. Now, when I go to the show and stuff like that, one of the questions I ask is, can your equipment, if I decide to put my X-ray unit on the 12 o'clock wall cabinet, can you do that? And they say, why would you put it there? No, we can't. Well, then that's where the custom guy, they say, well, we never done that. I say, well, we have. All right. We find a cabinet shop that will fabricate for us, and we design it, we engineer it so that it can carry those arms. You have more flexibility. You're not just buying a prefab cabinet, a prefab unit that you can make some adjustment. Custom means you can do pretty much that. If you do a prefab, then they give you a selected, a small selection of finishes that you can have, because this is the things that you only allowed to have. Well, custom, if you want to go to some exotic stuff because you really want to or can afford to, then custom you can do that. I'm not a proponent to say, I'm not in the game to say you shouldn't have the prefab stuff or you should have just custom, but it's all based on your personal need. It's options, and one, it costs you a fraction of the other. Sometimes it's a no-brainer.
Now, one thing I did, I had fun doing several times that the one thing, if you're going to buy all your supplies from Shine, or you're going to buy all your supplies from Patterson or Benco, whatever, that's the revenue stream they're most interested in. And instead of having them, I'd rather have someone representing me to design my office than having someone who wants to design it, trying to lay out everything they sell. But one thing I have found interesting of value from the suppliers is when you have an exact same, like a dentist will say to me, well, I have a 27 foot by 58 foot or whatever. I say, well, go to your supplier and ask them for a copy of all the floor plans of that shape and size, because what I have found is that you can do little things like, well, 9 out of 10 dentists put a patient bathroom up front, or this or that, or a break room or a conference. Because dentists are wickedly smart people. I mean, they got A's in calculus and physics and chemistry. And I ran with these guys. I mean, these are some of the sharpest guys in the block, and they don't make fast decisions. They're paralysis by analysis. So if you were going to do a specific shape of an office, and your supplier, your Sundries first could give you 50 just 8 by 10 blue sketches of the floor plan, man, that's a lot of brain power that went into one shape and size. And I've looked at those shapes and sizes, and I've always found it amazing how they all individually, and that's the proper way to brainstorm. Most people brainstorm wrong. the research is clear. When you pull all your staff into your conference room or waiting room and ask them a question and they start brainstorming in front of each other, the research says it never works. The strong, dominant personalities will go first. The people who don't want to make a ruckus will just agree. Proper brainstorming is when you tell everybody, we're going to meet at 1 o'clock to discuss this. I want you to bring your ideas in writing. And then we're going to go around the room and I'm going to go over what you wrote before you walked in the room. That's brainstorming, and that's what's happening when you get 50 different 8 by 10 pieces of paper of the floor design of an exact shape and size. It's really cool for me.
I find that, but how the danger of with some of that is this: when you get so much information, okay, that you can't decide what will be ideal. Because I like a little of this, I like a little of that, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, I know, where do I start? Okay, I would advise, strongly advise, when a dentist look at doing a new building, is that take proactive role in the design process. All right, whoever you ask to design your facility, whether it's a supply house or a designer or architect, be proactive about what you want, what you need. They'll come to a table and they might have, already a plan that they've used 40, 50 times across the country. And you say, oh, but it worked for you too. Well, I fit into my suit different than the next guy. I want to have a facility look more suitable for my personality, my life. So may want to say, hey, I like this, but I would like it differently. So they really need to take an active role in saying, this is what I want, okay, and this is what I like or don't like. So that way they're not selling you a design that had already been done for somebody else that may not be appropriate for you. Because we all want to have that unique thing, okay? So that's your chance to have your unique thing input into the design. When you have you take whatever it is that if somebody give you a 50 different layout, find the one that you really, really like and bring it down to just 3. And then that way you can roll it and say, I like this. This is, the majority of this I like, and I like some of this. Can you blend that together? Okay. But they have to take a proactive role. Otherwise, those people, your designers, your architects in your supply house will design exactly what they think you want.
I've only got you for 7 more minutes. Talk about your online CE course and about on Dental Town. I mean, it's wildly popular. Everybody obviously says you're the #1 authority on office design.
Well, Howard, I appreciate Dental Town give me the opportunity to present that on Dental Town. The CE course was not put together to tell you what nuts and bolts to use. It mainly a lot of things that you're not exposed to when you look at designing offices. What happened around you? Okay, what all the things that you need to do? Who's get to do what, and who has the authority? Who's best suited for the job? All right. Everybody that have a spool of yarn and a door think they're dentists. Well, we know that's not the case. Well, anybody that own a pencil and a ruler can't simply qualify themselves as an architect. So you have to find who is the best individual with the best training that can actually lead you through the whole process. Understand who do what and when, and what you can expect through the whole process. That's why the CE course is put together. It gives you options before you actually start to lay the very first line on paper. So that way you know whether the process of do I want to hire a builder that just going to hire everybody, take command of the whole thing, and I tell him I got $300,000 to build, and he said, I will build you exactly for $300,000, and everybody go home happy. Or that would be a design build. Or do I want to have the creative juice go as much as I can, so I have that perfect environment, that perfect design for the budget that I can live with, and then I bid it out to find the best people that can build it, and then we build it. So the design, build, and bid, the design, bid, and build. Most dentists don't know the difference. Okay, so the course gives you at least some idea what is your option, what are you comfortable with, and why, and who have control of what, and so on. So I think it's a course that really gives them a lot of input that give them value before they actually get down to the design process. And certainly would love to design it once they actually see it and go, this makes sense to me, that makes sense to me, and I'd like to talk to you more about it.
Well, like they say in construction, in carpentry, measure twice, cut once. And to have someone do their first dental office for you is just absolutely crazy when there's guys like you who could bring so much invaluable expertise. So how do these dentists get a hold of you? What tell them your website, contact information. What if I'm listening to this out there and I don't know what to do? I'm in Parsons, Kansas, and I'm thinking, but I'm not sure.
Well, not that I want to sell you our services and stuff like that.
I want to sell that guy your services. I want to do a townie a favor.
Thank you, Howard. I welcome the opportunity to at least to start the dialogue. When you contact us at hjtdesigngroup.com or hjtdesign.com, that's our website.
Spell it out slow one time.
hjtdesign.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you give out your email?
My email address is htran@hjtdesign.com. You can also reach me on my cell phone, 419-410-1562.
You're a brave man giving out your cell phone on a Dental Town podcast.
That's all right. And in the sense that one is that I want them to have the opportunity to get the information they need before they make a decision. Okay? Because everybody wants to sell you things. The thing is, if you are informed, you make better decision for you. You'll be a happier, individual. You look at you're looking for value, and I assume that's why you doing the research and you read and things like that. So the value is that what is it that you need to do first? It depends on what you're trying to do. You will need to know who and what you need to do first, not just simply do I need to buy the equipment and then build it and then build my building around it. Do the research.
But hon, how early should they be contacting you? I mean, should I wait till I bought the land and I have financing for the building? I mean, how early do you like to start communicating with the dentist who's thinking this thought?
Before you buy the land, at least you need to know how big of a piece of land you need. Okay, but before you decide how big of a land that you need to know what is the size of the facility that you ultimately going to build on that land. Let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what it would look like once it's all complete, if you're going to do it in phases. So you decide the size of the building, and then you decide the amount of land that you need. Just simply because in theory, if you need an office building this big, and you multiply it by 7 or 9 to give you the size of the land, but the land have a third of it's underwater, you're not going to be able to build it. Okay, so you have to do your research. Talk to your professional before you go out and you do those things. You don't go out and buy a house and then say I want to convert it into a dentist's office without knowing all the issues associated with buying a house, converting a house to a commercial space.
Well, here's what I want to say to my dentist buddies. When they go accepting people into dental school, it's a natural selection. When you screen them out there, you have to get A's in calculus and physics and chemistry and biochemistry and all that stuff. The natural selection is an introvert scientist type person, and they're shy. And what I want to say is to these dentists out there, if you're, I know you're shy, I know you don't like to reach out, I know you don't want to waste his time, but if you're even thinking about what to do, he just gave you a cell phone number, dude. Call him, and you need a buddy, and you need someone with a lot of experience to walk you through this process. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of decisions, and I know I've heard so many townies tell me that you are the greatest part of the entire process. So, Han, on that note, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being the moderator on the Dental Office Design Forum. Thank you for your thousands of posts. Thank you for everything, not only that you've done for dentistry, but for Dental Town. It's truly has been an honor to interview you for an hour.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate spending time with you.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care now.